Before a child can become their true self, they must first learn to notice who that self is, not the version shaped by expectations, not the version rewarded for compliance, but the quiet, authentic self that lives beneath the surface, the one that feels, wonders, chooses, and dreams. Self-awareness begins with recognition, and recognition begins with language. Welcome to Seeds of Tomorrow, when children can name what they feel, what they enjoy, and what they believe in. They begin to build a sense of identity that is rooted in truth, not performance. Let's start with emotions. Children experience emotions long before they can explain them. A toddler screams in frustration. A 7-year-old slams the door. A 10-year-old withdraws in silence. These behaviors are not misbehavior. They're communication. They're signals from a nervous system still learning how to speak. So the first step in nurturing self-awareness is helping children name their feelings. Not just happy and sad, but disappointed, embarrassed, overwhelmed, excited, lonely. The more precise the vocabulary, the more empowered the child. Use emotion charts, use stories, use moments from daily life. When your child says, "I don't know what I feel," you can say, "Let's figure it out together." You can offer choices. Does it feel more like anger or hurt? Is it a heavy feeling or a sharp one? This process builds emotional literacy, and emotional literacy is the foundation of self-understanding. Next, let's talk about interests. Children are naturally curious. They explore, they experiment, they follow sparks, but sometimes those sparks get dimmed by pressure, by comparison, by the fear of not being good enough. Your role as a parent is not to direct their interests, but to protect them. When your child shows fascination with something, whether it's dinosaurs, drawing, baking, or bugs, don't rush to evaluate. Don't ask, "Are they talented?" Ask, "Are they lit up?" Because interest is not about achievement, it's about aliveness. Create space for exploration. Let them try and quit and try again. Let them be messy. Let them be mediocre. Because the goal is not mastery, the goal is discovery. And every time your child feels free to follow their curiosity, they get one step closer to their true self. Now let's move to values. Values are the compass beneath behavior. They guide choices. They shape relationships. They define integrity. Even young children have values. They care about fairness. They notice kindness. They feel loyalty. But they don't always have the words, so help them find those words. After a conflict, ask, "What felt unfair to you? What mattered most in that moment?" When they make a choice they're proud of, say, "That shows courage. That shows honesty." Use stories to highlight values. Ask, "What do you think that character stood for? What would you have done?" And most importantly, model your own values. Let your child see you wrestle with decisions. Let them hear you say, "I'm choosing this because it aligns with what I believe." This transparency teaches them that values are not rules. They're reflections of who we are. And when children begin to name their own values, not just repeat what they've been told, they begin to build a moral identity that is internal, not imposed. So what does all this look like in daily life? It looks like slowing down. It looks like asking questions instead of giving answers. It looks like saying, "What do you feel? What do you love? What matters to you?" It looks like creating a home where emotions are welcome, where interests are honored, and where values are explored. Because when a child learns to recognize their inner world, they become less vulnerable to the noise of the outer world. They become less likely to chase approval and more likely to follow purpose. They become less shaped by pressure and more shaped by presence. And that presence begins with you. In the next part of this series, we'll explore the difference between a child's true identity, and the social masks they learn to wear. We'll look at how to help children stay connected to who they are, even as the world begins to tell them who they should be. Let's keep walking. The journey is just beginning. Every child is born whole, not perfect, not polished, but whole. They come into the world with a unique rhythm, a way of seeing, a way of feeling, a way of being. But as they grow, something begins to shift. They start to notice what gets praised, what gets attention, what gets approval. And slowly, they begin to shape themselves around those signals. Not because they're manipulative, but because they're human. Because belonging matters. Because acceptance feels like safety. This is how social masks are born. A child who's naturally quiet learns to perform loudness. A sensitive child learns to hide their tears. A curious child learns to ask fewer questions, not because they've changed, but because they've adapted. And while adaptation is part of life, it can also become a trap. When children begin to believe that their worth depends on performance, they start to lose touch with their true self. So how do we help them stay connected? How do we teach them that who they are is enough, even when the world asks for something else? We begin by noticing the mask, not judging it, not shaming it, just noticing. When your child acts differently around others, ask yourself, is this who they are? Or is this who they think they need to be? And then, gently, ask them too. I noticed you were really quiet at the party. Did you feel shy, or were you just tired? You seemed extra silly today. Were you having fun or trying to fit in? These questions aren't accusations, they're invitations. They open space for reflection, for honesty, for choice. Next, validate the true self. When your child shows you their real feelings, even if they're messy, inconvenient, or hard to handle, respond with warmth. Say, "Thank you for telling me," or "I love that you shared that with me." Because every time you respond with acceptance, you reinforce the message. You don't need to perform for love. You are loved as you are. Also, be mindful of praise. Praise is powerful, but it can also be misleading. When we only praise outcomes, grades, goals, achievements, children may begin to chase those moments as proof of worth. Instead, praise authenticity. Say, "I love how you stayed true to yourself," or "I noticed you spoke up even though it was hard." This kind of praise builds identity. It tells the child, you are seen, you are valued, not for what you do, but for who you are. Let's also talk about roles. Children often get assigned roles: the smart one, the funny one, the helper, the quiet one. These roles can feel comforting, but they can also become cages. When a child feels locked into a role, they may suppress parts of themselves that don't fit the label. So be careful with labels, even positive ones. Instead of saying, "You're always so helpful," try, "I appreciate when you choose to help." Instead of, "You're the brave one," say, "You showed courage in that moment." This subtle shift gives your child room to grow, to change, to be more than one thing. And finally, model your own truth. Let your child see you without your mask. Let them hear you say, "I used to pretend I was okay when I wasn't." Or, "I'm learning to be more honest about what I feel." This vulnerability is not weakness, it's leadership. It shows your child that authenticity is a lifelong practice, that even adults are still learning how to be real. So what does all this mean? It means that helping your child stay true to themselves is not about protecting them from the world. It's about preparing them to meet the world without losing who they are. It's about teaching them that they can belong without betraying themselves. It's about creating a home where masks aren't needed, where feelings are welcome, where identity is fluid, where love is unconditional. Because when a child learns that they don't have to perform to be accepted, They begin to trust themselves. They begin to listen inward. They begin to live from the inside out. And that is the beginning of true selfhood. In the next part of this series, we'll explore how to introduce the concept of conscious choice, how to help children make decisions that reflect who they are, not just what others expect. Let's keep walking. The path is unfolding. Every child makes choices: what to wear, what to eat, what game to play, who to sit beside, what to say or not say. But not every child knows they're choosing, and not every child feels empowered by those choices. That's where conscious choice begins. Not with control, not with pressure, but with awareness. To help a child become their true self, we must teach them that their choices matter, not just because of the outcome, but because of what those choices say about who they are. Let's start with the basics. Children often live in environments where decisions are made for them. What to wear, what to eat, what to study, what to believe. And while structure is important, too much control can silence the child's inner compass. So the first step is to create space for small, safe decisions. Let your child choose between two outfits. Let them decide what book to read. Let them pick the vegetable for dinner. These choices may seem trivial, but they're not. They're practice. They're rehearsal. They're the beginning of agency. And agency is the root of selfhood. Next, teach reflection. After a choice is made, pause and explore it. Ask, how did that feel? What made you choose that? Would you do it the same way next time? These questions build metacognition. They help the child think about their thinking. They turn choices into learning, and learning into growth. Also, normalize mistakes. When a child makes a choice that doesn't go well, don't rush to fix it. Don't shame them. Don't say, "I told you so." Instead, say, "That didn't work out the way you hoped. What do you think happened?" Or, "Every choice teaches us something. What did you learn?" This response builds resilience. It teaches the child that mistakes are not failures, they're feedback. And feedback is how we grow. Let's talk about values again. When children make choices, they're often responding to external cues. What others want, what feels safe, what gets approval. But we want to help them choose from within. So bring values into the conversation. Ask, what matters most to you in this situation? Which choice feels most honest? Which one feels most kind? These questions help the child align their decisions with their inner compass, and that alignment builds integrity. Now let's address peer pressure. As children grow, their choices become more social, more visible, more influenced. They may choose to follow the crowd, to stay silent, to say yes when they mean no. This is normal. But it's also a moment of vulnerability, so teach them to pause, to ask, is this what I want? Does this feel right to me? Am I choosing this, or am I being pulled? These questions don't guarantee resistance, but they plant seeds of awareness, seeds of courage, and over time, those seeds grow into boundaries. Let's also talk about autonomy. Autonomy doesn't mean isolation, it means ownership. When a child feels ownership over their choices, they feel empowered. They feel responsible. They feel capable. So when possible, let them lead. Let them plan the weekend activity. Let them organize their space. Let them decide how to approach a challenge. And when they succeed, celebrate. When they struggle, support. But always remind them, this is your journey. I'm here beside you. And finally, model conscious choice yourself. Let your child see you pause before deciding. Let them hear you say, I'm choosing this because it aligns with what I believe. Or, I'm saying no because I need rest. This modeling teaches that choice is not just about preference. It's about alignment. It's about listening inward. It's about honoring your truth. So what does all this mean? It means that helping your child make conscious choices is not about giving them control over everything. It's about giving them control over something, and then helping them reflect, learn, and grow. It's about teaching them that every decision, big or small, is a chance to express who they are, to live with intention, to move with clarity. Because when a child learns to choose consciously, they begin to live consciously. They begin to trust themselves, to take responsibility, to shape their path. And that path begins with a single question: what do I want to choose right now? In the next part of this series, we'll explore how parents can help shape a child's inner voice, the quiet, persistent dialogue that guides their choices, their emotions, and their sense of self. Let's keep walking. The journey continues. Every child has an inner voice. It's quiet, it's constant, and it's powerful. It's the voice that says, "I can do this," or "I'm not good enough." The voice that whispers, "I'm safe," or "I always mess things up." This voice doesn't come from nowhere. It's built, word by word, moment by moment, experience by experience. And more often than we realize, it's built by us. As parents, we shape the tone of our child's inner world. Not forever, not completely, but in the early years, when the foundation is soft, when the walls are still rising, our words become their thoughts, our reactions become their beliefs, our tone becomes their truth. So when a child makes a mistake, when they feel sad, when they struggle, what do they hear? Not just from us, but from themselves. Because the real question is not, did they fail? It's, what story did they tell themselves about that moment? Let's pause here. Imagine a child who spills a glass of juice. They freeze. They say, "I ruin everything." Now, you could say, "No, you don't," or "It's just juice." But what if you said, "Sounds like you're feeling frustrated with yourself. Want to talk about it?" That response doesn't just clean up the mess. It cleans up the meaning. It tells the child, "I see you. I hear you. You're more than this moment." And that's where healing begins. Because children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. Ones who notice, ones who name, ones who nurture. Let's go deeper. Self-talk is often shaped by repeated experiences. If a child is constantly corrected, they may internalize the belief that they're always wrong. If a child is constantly praised only when they succeed, they may believe that their worth is tied to achievement. But if a child is seen, heard, and valued, especially in moments of failure, they begin to build a voice that is kind, curious, resilient, and that voice becomes their compass. It guides them through challenges. It steadies them in storms. It reminds them of who they are. So how do we help build that voice? We model it. We speak kindly to ourselves in front of them. We say, "That didn't go as I hoped, but I'll figure it out." We show them that adults fail too, that we stumble, that we learn. We also create space. Space for reflection, space for emotion, space for silence. Because sometimes the inner voice needs quiet to grow, and we ask questions, not to interrogate, but to invite. Questions like, "What did you learn from that?" Or, "What would you say to a friend who felt the way you do?" These questions shift perspective. They open doors. They plant seeds. And over time, those seeds become stories. Stories of strength. Stories of growth. Stories of possibility. Let's not forget the power of repetition. The phrases we use often become the phrases our children repeat. So let's choose wisely. Let's say, "Mistakes help us learn." "Feelings are okay." "You're growing every day." Let's make these phrases part of the fabric of our homes, part of the rhythm of our days. Because when a child hears these messages enough, They begin to believe them. And when they believe them, they begin to live them. And that's the goal. Not to shield our children from struggle, but to equip them with a voice that can carry them through it. A voice that says, I am enough. I am learning. I am strong. So what does all this mean? It means we must become intentional. We must design homes where failure is not feared, but embraced, where mistakes are not punished, but explored, where identity is not tied to performance, but to character. This is not easy. It requires patience, reflection, and sometimes a reparenting of ourselves. But the reward is profound. A child who learns to speak kindly to themselves becomes an adult who can navigate life with grace. In the final part of this series, we'll explore how to help children truly love themselves, not for what they achieve, not for how they're seen, but for who they are. Let's keep walking. The heart of selfhood is just ahead. Every child wants to be loved, to be seen, to be chosen, to be enough. And in their search for love, they often look outward, to parents, to teachers, to friends, to screens. They ask, am I good? Am I smart? Am I worthy? And the answers they receive, in words, in gestures, in silence, begin to shape how they see themselves. But here's the truth. No amount of external approval can replace the power of internal love. To raise a child who truly knows themselves, we must teach them to love themselves, not for what they do, not for how they're seen, but for who they are. Let's begin with the foundation. Self-love is not arrogance, it's not entitlement, it's not superiority, it's quiet, it's steady, it's the feeling of being safe inside your own skin. It's the ability to say, I matter, even when no one's watching. So how do we teach this? We begin by modeling it. Let your child see you care for yourself. Let them hear you say, I'm proud of how I handled that. Or, I'm giving myself grace today. Show them that love is not just something you give to others. It's something you offer to yourself. Next, separate worth from performance. When your child succeeds, celebrate the effort, not just the outcome. Say, I saw how hard you worked, or you stayed true to yourself. And when they struggle, don't withdraw love. Don't make it conditional. Say, I love you no matter what, or this doesn't change how I see you. Because every time you affirm their worth beyond achievement, you build a foundation of unconditional belonging. Let's talk about body image. Children absorb messages about their bodies early, from media, from peers, from us. So be intentional. Avoid comments that tie value to appearance. Instead say, I love how strong your body is, or your smile lights up the room. And most importantly, speak kindly about your own body, because your child is listening and learning. Now let's explore identity. Children are constantly evolving. They try on ideas, they shift interests, they change. Celebrate that. Say, you're discovering who you are, or it's okay to change your mind. This teaches them that identity is not fixed, it's fluid, it's alive, and that they are allowed to grow. Let's also talk about boundaries. Self-love includes protection. It includes saying no. It includes walking away. Teach your child that they have the right to set boundaries, to say, I don't like that, or I need space. And when they do, honor it. Don't override, don't dismiss. Say, thank you for telling me, or I respect your choice. This builds trust. It tells the child, you are allowed to protect yourself. And finally, create rituals of self-connection. Invite your child to reflect, to journal, to draw, to speak kindly to themselves. Try a bedtime ritual. What did you love about yourself today? Or a morning mantra. I am enough. I am growing. I am loved. These small practices become habits, and habits become beliefs. So what does all this mean? It means that helping your child love themselves is not about boosting their ego. It's about building their core. It's about teaching them that they are worthy of kindness, of care, of respect from others and from themselves. It's about creating a home where love is not earned but offered, not measured but felt. Because when a child learns to love themselves, they become less dependent on approval, less afraid of rejection, less likely to betray their truth for belonging. They become more grounded, more compassionate, more whole, and that wholeness is the heart of selfhood. So thank you for walking this journey, for choosing presence over perfection, for planting seeds of self-awareness, self-trust, and self-love. If this series spoke to you, if it gave you clarity, comfort, or courage, I invite you to subscribe to Seeds of Tomorrow. Together, we'll keep exploring, keep growing, keep building a future where children know who they are and love who they are. Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of theirs, and remember, every tomorrow begins with how we show up today.